that um, effect. So over the next 4 days, um, this session and three others to follow, we'll explore this pastime of Govardhan Lila. This pastime of Govardhan Lila specifically spans four chapters of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 24, 25, 26, and 27. The first chapter deals with the actual worship of Govardhan Hill, which we'll discuss today. The second chapter, 25, deals with Indra's reaction to the residents of Vrindavan performing the Govardhan Puja. Chapter 26, after being protected by Krishna, the lifter of Govardhan Hill, Nanda Maharaj and the residents of Krishna begin to glorify Krishna and his pastimes. That chapter is entitled Wonderful Krishna. And in the 27th chapter, Indra, in the company of Mother Surabhi, a transcendental cow from Vrindavan, approach Krishna and begs for forgiveness and offers prayers to Krishna. They worship Krishna and so on. So these are the four chapters that span this pastime of Govardhan Lila. However, Govardhan plays a pivotal role in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. It is one of the central hubs around which Krishna performs his pastimes, whether it be the pastimes of tending cows, whether it be the pastimes of playing with his friends, whether it be the pastimes of having the company of the gopis. Govardhan is at the center of it all. There's this verse which Srila Rupa Goswami gives in his Upadesh Amrita. The verse goes, Vaikunta janito vara madhupuri tatrapi rasotsavad vrindaranyam udarapani ramanat tatrapi govardhana radha kundamihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryad asya virajato giritate sevam viveki nakaha. Srila Rupa Goswami says, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikunta, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Ras Lila pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prem of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So in this verse, a hierarchy is given within the spiritual world. First, there's Mathura Puri, where Krishna appears. Then, that is superior to Vaikunta, the spiritual world in general, where Vishnu and his various expansions reside. So, Mathura is superior to Vaikunta. Superior to Mathura is Vrindavan because of Ras Leela. And when we visit Vrindavan, one of the places that the devotees have very high up on their list is to visit Seva Kunj. Seva Kunj is that place where the Ras Leela takes place. And even today, at night, That place is locked and no one is allowed inside. Everyone has to exit. No one is allowed inside. And the mahants or the sevakas who worship in that place, they prepare a bed of flowers that Radha and Krishna would come there and enjoy their pastimes during the night. So that is Seva Kunj, because Krishna performed his Ras Leela pastimes here. But even superior to Seva Kunj or Vrindavan forest, where the Ras Leela takes place, is Govardhan. Because Krishna also performs Ras Leela at Govardhan. Krishna tends the cows at Govardhan. Krishna plays with the gopas at Govardhan. And Krishna touched Govardhan with the little finger of his left hand for 7 days. And even superior to Govardhan, Srila Rupa Goswami highlights is Sri Radha Kund. Why does he say? Because it is over flooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the land of Gokula, of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. But then he also says at the end that Radha Kund is situated at the foothill of Govardhan. There is no parikram or worship of Govardhan by going around the circumference of the Govardhan hill that does not include a visit to Radha Kunda. Acharyas describe that Govardhan, as he is situated today, has the form of a transcendental peacock. And this peacock has a very interesting posture. The peacock is standing and his head is tucked back below its body. And the two eyes of this peacock is Shamakund and Radhakund. So even when Rupa Goswami says that Govardhan, then Radhakund, in one sense, they cannot be separated from each other. Because Radhakund is situated within the bounds of Govardhan. In our line, the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, our acharyas have always given a special emphasis to Govardhan. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his last days, he was actually deeply meditating on one prayer known as the Govardhan Ashtakam. And he was actually residing in Jagannath Puri at the Chataka Parvat. The Chataka Parvat in Jagannath Puri is considered none different from Govardhan in Vrindavan. This Chataka Parvat is located adjacent to the Tota Gopinath Mandir. And it was there, meditating on Govardhan, that Bhakti Siddhanta departed from this world. And then the next day, his body was taken by train back to Mayapur. Actually, when his first disciples were dispatched on a mission to take the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the West, he sent them to England because at that time India was under the British rule. So he thought that what better place to go than to the UK, to England. And when he sent them, he gave them a Govardhan Shila. He gave them the shelter of Giriraj as they were going to England to preach. Srila Prabhupada also had a very deep attachment to Govardhan, to Giriraj. In his last days, when Srila Prabhupada was practically skin and bone, completely emaciated, he asked his disciples, I desire to go on Govardhan Parikrama. So in his last days, Srila Prabhupada, his consciousness was very fixed on Govardhan Hill. Of course, his disciples, seeing Srila Prabhupada's condition, begged him not to go. And this caused, there was a division. Some people started to make arrangements to take Srila Prabhupada, while others were reluctant and they asked Srila Prabhupada, please don't go. And Srila Prabhupada relented, okay, I won't go. Srila Prabhupada actually, when he was coming to the US in 1965, traveling with him, along with Srimad Bhagavatam, he had brought three Govardhan Shilas, and he kept those Govardhan Shilas with him during his journey. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, many of them also had a special love for Giriraj. Sanatan Goswami would perform Govardhan Parikrama practically every single day until he became very, very old. And Krishna himself asked him, "You can stop performing this parikrama every day, it is too long for you." There are two parikramas of Govardhan. The shorter parikrama, which is about 21, 22 kilometers, and there's the longer parikrama, which goes some extra distance. So Sanatan Goswami would perform this longer parikrama of Govardhan every day, even into his old age. And it became very difficult for him. And Krishna appeared to him and said, "You see, I'll give you one Shila, one rock from Govardhan Hill. And you perform parikrama of this rock 4 times, and that will be equivalent to going around the entirety of Govardhan Hill." But actually, on the day of Guru Purnima, Sanatan Goswami, while performing Govardhan Parikram, entered into the eternal pastimes of Krishna. He left his body while performing Govardhan Parikrama. And in honor of Sanatan Goswami, the largest parikrama of Govardhan takes place not on Govardhan Puja day, but on the day of Guru Purnima, in honor of Sanatan Goswami's love for Govardhan. So Govardhan is very, very special to our acharyas. Raghunath Das Goswami, he personally worshipped a Govardhan Shila that was personally given to him by Lord Chaitanya himself. Personally given to him by Lord Chaitanya. Raghunath Das Goswami, in the upcoming days, I will share one poem written about Govardhan by Raghunath Das Goswami. Normally, we are accustomed with Ashtakams, like Guru Ashtakam, Govardhan Ashtakam, and so on. But Raghunath Das Goswami, he wrote a prayer to Govardhan. It's a Dashakam. It's 10 verses, begging for residence at the Govardhan, begging for residence at Govardhan Hill. The origin of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, as it were, is Shripad Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri also performed bhajan at Govardhan, specifically at Govinda Kund. He would perform bhajan there. So Govardhan is very dear to Vaishnavas, and even more so, it is dear to the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this past time, actually, I was speaking to one friend just a couple days ago. He's a pundit friend of mine in Trinidad, and he said to me, he said, "Listen, nobody does Govardhan Puja as you people from ISKCON. Nowhere you will find as grand a celebration as Govardhan Puja as you ISKCON people." And it is true. It is actually quite a grand festival. I unfortunately had to miss it due to obligations with my children yesterday. But and I actually do feel that because it's always one of the largest festivals over the years, especially at our Radha Gopinath Mandir, is actually Govardhan Puja. In many years back, persons who would visit the Nagar would visit for Govardhan Puja, especially after visiting the Nagar, and they would come and Govardhan Puja would be packed with people coming for darshan, and especially the way we perform Govardhan Puja is we make a hill with prasad and different sweets and all these things, and it's really a spectacle. I remember in 2003 when I was there for Govardhan Puja at the Vrindavan temple was a huge hill that they made with prasadam, and they had to have security guards armed with sticks in case people tried to rush the hill to get prasadam from it. I almost got sticked. I wasn't sure what the system was, and I just went up, accustomed to what we used to do in Trinidad. And this guard, dressed in uniform, raised his stick and stopped me from proceeding towards the hill. So it's a very wonderful festival. So today we will begin with chapter 24 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But before that, what I thought I'd do is give some background as to why does Krishna perform this Govardhan Lila. And there's many, many reasons given. There are many, many reasons given, and I'll discuss them. Some of them are given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, some by Sanatan Goswami, and some by other acharyas. So I'll share some of those reasons with you. It is very interesting that how the Govardhan Lila pastime begins is that Krishna observes his father and other residents of Vrindavan they're busy making preparations to worship Indra. Indra is the Devata who is the king of the heavenly planets, and he is in charge of the rains, of sending forth rain. And Krishna was seeing his devotees, his not just his devotees, but his personal associates becoming caught up in worshipping Indra, and Krishna didn't like this. Krishna felt that my devotees, especially my close associates, their attention should not be turned to anyone else besides me. There is no need to worship anyone other than to take shelter of me. Actually, in in Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada writes, and then he's quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that what does faith mean? What is the definition of faith? And he paraphrases this in at least one place in Bhagavad Gita. He's paraphrasing a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching to Rupa Goswami on what is faith. Yes. Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe Sudridha Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Shraddha. What is Shraddha? It is the firm conviction that by Krishna Bhakti, everything else is automatically taken care of. That I'm freed of all other obligations. There is no necessity for me performing any other kind of puja. Simply by taking shelter of Krishna and worshipping Krishna, sarva karma krita hoy. All that is required to be performed is performed. There is no lack. There is no need for doing anything else. Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe Sudridha, the firm determination. Krishna Bhakti Koile, that by taking shelter of Krishna, there is no need for me to do anything else. So Krishna was seeing his father, his uncles, the elders of the village, his personal associates, making a great effort to worship Indra. And Krishna said, nothing doing. This has to stop. Another reason why Krishna performed the Govardhan Lila is I heard this from Rajarshi Prabhu, that one of the things Indra would do is that it is described in the Puranas that mountains in the past used to have wings. And if they wanted to relocate from one place to the next, they would just pick up themselves, fly away, and plant themselves somewhere else. And one can imagine this would cause a lot of inconvenience to the people where they were relocating to. And Indra, with his thunderbolt, would clip their wings, and therefore the mountains became immobile. They became stationary and fixed. and they became very angry at Indra. And so Krishna, to punish Indra for clipping the wings of the mountains, took the side of the mountains in the form of Govardhan to punish Indra. So this is a second reason why Krishna performs the pastime of Govardhan Lila. A third reason given by Acharyas is Indra had become full of pride. And this is actually very significant. One of the persons that appears in Bhagavatam, perhaps more than anybody else, is Indra. The verse which is considered the seed verse of the Bhagavatam, or the reconciling verse of the Bhagavatam, the technical name for it is the Paribhasa Sutra. That if you want to, if you find something that it doesn't seem like it adds up, then you have to reconcile it with this verse. This verse is the measuring stick. What is that verse? Ete chamsa kala pumsha krishnastu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge yuge. So the first verse says that all the avatars and incarnations that were previously described, they are expansions and expansions of the expansion. But Krishna, Stu Bhagavan, he is the origin of all that. He is Bhagavan Swayam. And this comes back to the first verse of Bhagavatam. Janmad yasetan vayaditarataschatyeshwa bhigyaswarat tene brahma hrida ya adikavaye muhyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirastas kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Satyam param, Bhagavan Swayam, is Krishna. But what happens? From time to time, Indra becomes harassed by his enemies. Indra Ari. Indra becomes harassed by enemies. And therefore, Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Krishna appears in these different incarnations to arrest the enemies of Indra. The enemies of Indra come in the form of demons externally. But deeper than that, the enemies of Indra come in the form of pride, arrogance, envy. And Krishna appears throughout the Bhagavatam to deal with these enemies of Indra, to teach us what to do and what not to do, using Indra as an example. So Indra had developed a mountain of pride. And to crush that mountain of pride that had overwhelmed Indra, Krishna used Govardhan mountain to crush Indra's pride mountain. Another, wait, something happened there. I don't know if I pressed something. Was that me? Okay, so yeah, go ahead and share the whiteboard. That's fine. Right. But later on, I'll complete some notes as well and share as well. So those are three reasons so far. The first reason is Krishna didn't like that his devotees were worshipping Indra. They should just take shelter of me and do what I like. That's all. Second reason is to take the side of the mountains in retaliation to Indra's clipping their wings. The third reason is Indra had become filled with pride, and therefore, using Govardhan mountain, Krishna crushed the pride of Indra. The fourth reason is quite interesting, that different devotees oftentimes complain. And what is their complaint? I'll give you an example. Two examples. When Krishna goes to the forest during the day, the gopis become very upset because they can't see Krishna for the time he's in the forest. One of the things that they do is they worship Surya Dev. They worship Surya. And when they are asked, "But why are you worshipping Surya?" The gopis respond, by worshipping Surya, we are praying that we'll get nice, qualified husbands, young, strong, good looking husbands. And their parents become very pleased. But internally, the gopis aren't worshipping to get qualified husbands. They are praying to Surya that, my dear Surya, you please shorten your passage across the sky. You take so many hours to go from one side of the sky to the next, but this is too long for us because the longer you take, the longer night takes to come. And until night comes, we cannot meet with Krishna. So, therefore, Surya, we would like that you quickly shorten your span. So, night would be longer and day would be shorter. So, they're praying for Surya to move quickly. So, night would be longer so they can have more time with Krishna. But the Gopas, they spend all day with Krishna and they go to the forest and they come back home. But then they are without Krishna because they go to their own homes and Krishna goes to his home. And they have to wait until the next morning to see Krishna. So the Gopas, they perform puja to Chandra. And when they are questioned, why are you worshipping Chandra Dev? Because every day we have to go and take care of the cows. And therefore we worship Chandra for the sake of becoming strong, for good health. Chandra, the moon, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, supplies the juice of life to the vegetables. Supplies life to the vegetables. Chandra is also the devata in charge of the mind. So, mental health and physical health, the Gopas are praying for. We want this health, but that is external. They are thinking, Chandra, you are taking too long. Night is too long. Shorten your business so we can have more time with Krishna. So, Krishna is aware that many of his devotees are feeling dissatisfied, that they don't have his unbroken association. Therefore, to satisfy the desires of his many devotees, Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill, and for 7 days, all the residents of Vrindavan have Krishna's undivided attention. 7 days and 7 nights, unbroken. So, this is the fourth reason why Krishna performs Govardhan Lila. And I heard this another reason, a little bit esoteric reason, but I'll share it anyhow because I found it was very nice. It was very inspiring. I'll share it. One day, Krishna was standing on top of Govardhan Hill, and Krishna decided, today I will go to meet with Chandravali. And he started to go to the area where Chandravali's Kunja was. So, in case anybody is wondering who is Chandravali, in Golok Vrindavan, two gopis are considered primary, Srimati Radharani and Chandravali. In other words, Chandravali, in one sense, is like Radharani's competitor for Krishna's attention. And she has her own gopis, and sometimes some of the fights that take place between Radha and Krishna are because Krishna would have went to meet Chandravali. So one day, Krishna had the desire to meet Chandravali, and he was going. And Giriraj, Govardhan, stopped him. He said, Krishna, I know what you are going to do, and I cannot allow you to do it. What is that? You are going to meet Chandravali. And Krishna said, listen, just don't say anything, else it will cause problems. Later I will meet with Srimati Radharani, but now I have some time. I want to go to meet Chandravali. Govardhan said, no, no, no. You may be the lord of my life, but I'm actually a follower of Radha. And if you go to Chandravali, I will spread this news to Srimati Radharani. And Krishna said, come on, surely we can make some arrangement. Don't you love me? Govardhan said, yes, I love you. But still, Radha is my Swamini. I cannot allow you to go to Chandravali. But Krishna said, okay, just don't say anything. Don't lie, but don't say anything. And Giriraj said, okay, I will not say anything, but I'll tell you one thing. Even if you go to Chandravali and nobody sees, and I see, and I don't talk, and I don't divulge your secret, Srimati Radha would still find out you went to Chandravali. And Krishna said, Ade, how come? Because she will see your footprints. And she is so shrewd that she will know that these footprints went to the Kunj of Chandravali. And therefore you will get caught. So one of the reasons that Krishna orchestrated the pastime of Govardhan, that when he lifted Govardhan for 7 days, the rains of Govardhan would wash Krishna's footprints. And so Krishna can have a secret meeting. So this is one of the some of the reasons given by the acharyas for Krishna's performance of the Govardhan Lila. So how does this pastime begin? The pastime begins that Krishna sees his father and the Brajabasis busily carrying out a sacrifice for Indra, and he asks them about it. Krishna knew what was taking place because he had seen it many years before. It was a yearly festival. In fact, on that day of Diwali, when Krishna broke the butter pot and caused chaos in Nanda's house, that was Diwali morning. No one was there. Nanda Maharaj wasn't there. Many of the elders weren't there. Nobody was there. Why? Because on that morning of Diwali, they had gone to the area where the Indra Puja would take place to prepare, to make preparations. Anytime you're having a yagya or puja, it takes some effort, it takes some preparation. So the elders had gone to make the preparations for the Indra Puja, and Krishna was left in the care of Mother Yashoda, and many of the servants have gone. That is why there wasn't anyone there to take care of the milk and do any of the domestic things. So they had gone, and Krishna is referred to here as Sarvatma. Krishna knew what was going on. He knew what the Brajabasis were doing because he, as the super soul, was inspiring them to do it. It's interesting. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, when someone desires to worship some devata, I make their faith steady so they can do it. So for all the years the Brajabasis had been worshipping Indra, Krishna was allowing them to do it as Sarvatma. But now he wanted to inspire them to stop the worship of Indra and to begin the worship of Govardhan. Krishna is referred to in this verse as Sarvadarshinaha because he could see that in the future Indra's pride would be smashed and he would have 7 days of unbroken pastimes with his devotees on the Govardhan hill. Sarvadarshanaha also means that Govardhan is the best of devotees. Normally we hear that Haridasa Varya, Govardhan is the best of devotees, but Sarvadarshanaha also means that Govardhan is the best of devotees. Sanatana Goswami gives a very interesting take on this. He says that in the voice of Krishna. He says, Nanda is so straightforward and most affectionate towards me. He's so overcome with love that he will never go against anything I ask him. All others are dependent on him. Therefore, I won't ask anybody else. I'll go directly to my father and ask him. And therefore, if I convince him, then everybody else would fall in line. I don't have to go separately. Let me just speak to my father. He is so much in love with me that anything I ask him, he will do. So Krishna asked his father, my dear father, you tell me about the sacrifice. What is it meant to accomplish? Who is it meant to satisfy? By what means is it going to be executed? Krishna says something very interesting. He said some people perform sacrifices and they don't understand what they are doing. He says those who are knowledgeable, they actually achieve success. But those who are ignorant, they do not. It's a very important point Krishna is making here. Many times we do activities, but we don't know why. I remember growing up in a traditional, Hindu home, and many times my grandparents were very religious, and we would have often pujas at our home. And I was a very inquisitive person. I would ask, what is this? Why we are doing this? And in most cases, I would get responses like, "So you don't know? But how would I know? Who has taught me?" You know. And as I was growing up, I saw this as a norm that we would do things just because it was done like this, without any understanding of why. The same thing also happens sometimes in our own practice of Krishna consciousness. We just do it. But it's important when doing something, it has to have a certain consciousness behind it. There must be a certain consciousness behind it. On the one end, there's the ritual, which we just do. But when there's the mood and the consciousness that is connected to the activities that we do, the result changes. When our consciousness and our conviction changes and infuses the activities that we do, the result changes. So Krishna is actually making this point to his father. He's saying some people perform sacrifices and they don't understand what they are doing, and others they understand. He says those who perform it in knowledge, they achieve success, whereas those who are ignorant do not. So why do we do what we do? And sometimes that changes as we grow in our spiritual practice. And we can ask this question of any activity we perform. A very simple question. What is my why? Why do I chant Hare Krishna? Why do I read Srila Prabhupada's books? Why do I endeavor to only take prasad, food that was offered to Krishna? Why should I be respectful to devotees? When we find our why, then we can align our practice to that. The answer to this question of why we do what we do is a very fundamental response, is a very fundamental drive in our spiritual practice. When we find our why, then the what can be aligned. And oftentimes, when we see the what going in a particular direction, it means it is following a certain why. So it's very important for us as devotees to align our why in Krishna consciousness. Why do I chant? Why do I dress a certain way? Why do I attend temple? Why do I read Bhagavatam? What is my why? It's very important, and Krishna is reminding us of that here. He continues to ask his father, is this a fruitive endeavor, my dear father, based on scripture? Or is it simply a local custom? He says that don't think I'm asking you just as a child. I am eager to hear. And saintly persons like yourself, you don't keep secrets. Why? Because you see everyone as equal to yourself, and therefore you do not consider whether someone is a friend, or whether someone is an enemy, or whether someone is neutral. He says, but actually, one who is neutral should be considered that he is in the camp of the enemy. But if someone is a friend, he should be considered as one's own self. But my dear father, I am not a friend, I am not an enemy, nor am I neutral. I am your own child. Therefore, please disclose to me all these questions I have asked. Please give me the answers to these questions that I've asked. And Nanda Maharaj, when he hears Krishna's questions, he begins to smile. What is this boy? How is he asking these questions? And Nanda Maharaj, he begins to speak. He says that, my dear son, Indra is the controller of the rains, and the clouds are his personal representatives. And together they provide rainwater, which gives sustenance to all creatures. My dear son, not only do we worship Indra, but many other people all over the world. They perform his worship. And by the blessings of Indra, in the form of rain, people sustain their lives and they are able to achieve the three goals of human life, that of religiosity, economic development, and enjoyment or sense gratification. My dear son, this worship is not based on some whimsical fancy that we had. Rather, this worship is based on sound tradition and should never be neglected out of lust, enmity, or fear, or greed. Because, my dear son, by so doing, we'll be led down a path that results in misfortune. So Nanda Maharaj is saying, my dear son, this is a local custom. And it's interesting, Nanda Maharaj, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he refers to Krishna as Tata, my dear son. There's another place we find this word Tata in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna is asking, what happens to me if I take to this practice of yoga, which Krishna is describing in the sixth chapter, and I'm unable to see it to its end, to achieve perfection, and I leave, I fall away. What happens to me? And Krishna, hearing the concern in Arjuna's voice, he refers to Arjuna as Tata, my dear friend, my dear one. So when Nanda Maharaj hears Krishna's questions and he's beginning his response, Nanda Maharaj refers to Krishna as Tata, my dear son. And what he is saying, he's saying, my dear son, it is because of my worship of devatas like Indra that I have gotten you as my son. We worship Indra with the very same materials created by Indra's rains. Just as one worships the Ganges river with palmfuls of water from the Ganges itself. So Nanda Maharaj answers Krishna's questions. But Krishna is not satisfied with these answers. He begins to speak, to refute the responses given by Nanda Maharaj. And it said specifically, when Krishna hears his father's reply, he spoke specifically with the intention to incite anger in Indra. In other words, Krishna wanted to provoke Indra. Tomorrow we'll speak about this um, provocation of Indra and provocation that we experience also. When Krishna hears his father's reply, he begins to speak in such a way to incite Indra. He knows, like sometimes we get into an argument with some people, and it's almost like they know which buttons to press, they know what trigger points. So Krishna, he knew exactly what was going to trigger Indra. Krishna, his intention wasn't to insult Indra, but he wanted to knock the mountain of pride, of false pride, that had arisen within Indra's heart. He thought that by lifting Govardhan Hill, I would inaugurate the grand festival of Govardhan Puja, and I would have the pleasure of dwelling for 7 days beneath this hill with my loving devotees. And Krishna, because he wants to incite Indra, he speaks two philosophies which are atheistic in nature. It's quite interesting that the absolute truth is not speaking the absolute truth. Why? He wants to incite Indra. The two philosophies that Krishna speaks in this section, the majority of it is karma mimamsa. Karma mimamsa is thinking karma is king, that everything is subject to karma, but there's also reincarnation. And the second atheistic philosophy is that material nature is king, or the modes of nature, an atheistic version of Sankhya. Krishna speaks in a couple of verses. So Krishna begins that it is by karma only that a living entity takes birth. It is by karma that he meets with destruction. His happiness, fear, distress, sense of security, they all arise as a result of karma, my dear father. Krishna was thinking, why are my eternal associates so caught up in worshipping Indra? Krishna just wanted to show that to his eternal associates that they need not divert their attention from him to any other devata. And there's a few chapters in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam that illustrate this point. Now, another place where this happens is when they go to Ambikavan for the worship of Lord Shiva on Shivaratri. That Krishna wanted to demonstrate to the people in general who had come to Ambikavan to worship Lord Shiva and to his devotees of his supremacy. So, to enact that pastime, Krishna rescues this Vidyadhara who had taken the form of a snake. And he touches Krishna's feet and he assumes his original form and he begins to praise Krishna. One of the things he says is that simply by chanting your holy name, persons receive purification. Persons become purified. What to speak of me who have actually come in touch with you and have actually felt the coolness of your lotus glance on my form. So they hear this Vidyadhara glorifying Krishna in so many ways. And the Brajabasis, they begin to think how great Krishna is. And it's interesting, Srila Prabhupada comments in Krishna book that the Brajabasis went there with the intention to worship Lord Shiva, but their love for Krishna increased. Their love for Krishna increased. So Krishna was thinking, these are my eternal associates. I just want their love. Don't try to do anything else for anyone else. And in this regard, I mentioned previously that Srila Prabhupada writes that faith means that we have full confidence that by serving Krishna, we become free from all other obligations. This is a very pivotal point. As a person who had been assisting in the performance of different types of yagyas, pujas over the years, and especially when someone dies, persons become concerned as devotees because sometimes they see how simple a Vaishnava funeral is. Do we have some other obligation to do, some other thing to perform? My answer is no. Is no. There's nothing else that requires to be performed. Why should we do something else different than what we were doing our whole life? Our whole life we spend cultivating our relationship with Krishna, chanting Krishna's holy name, eating foodstuff which was first offered to Krishna, offering respect and service to Krishna's devotees, taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, taking shelter of the holy name. Our whole life we do this. And we say that this gives us the supreme destination of Golok Vrindavan. Manmanam bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says, you do these things and you will come to me because you are very dear to me. And when we die, we do something else. There's nothing else that is required. And this is called Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma means the exact same thing we do in the conditioned state to give purification, to become purified by, those same activities are performed in the purified state. There's nothing else that needs to be done. There's no other person that we have to take shelter of. Krishna is the ultimate shelter. One of the things Krishna is thinking is, I am the shelter of even the devatas. Why should my family members take shelter of someone else? They're already under my shelter. There's no need for them to take shelter anywhere else. And this is faith. Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe Sudridha Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. In the Ramayana, in Yuddha Kand, there's a very beautiful verse. Sakradeva prapanno yas tavasmi iti chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. The context of it is Vibhishan leaves the company of Ravana and takes shelter of Ram. And Lord Ram presents this question to the Vanaras, that do you think he can be trusted? What do you and they begin to debate amongst themselves that no, he may not be able to be trusted. Just as who would abandon the affection, their brother, and go to the enemy? Just as easily as he could abandon his brother, just as easily he can abandon us. Suppose he has come as a spy. So many different reasons they give. And Lord Ram hears them debating back and forth, whether to trust, whether not to trust. And Lord Ram intervenes. Sakradeva Prapanna. Even if once, even one time, somebody takes shelter of me, saying, my dear Lord, from today I am yours. Just once. Sakradeva Prapanno. Tava asmi iti chayachati. My dear Lord, from today, Tava asmi. I am yours. From that day on, Abhayam Sarvadatasmai. That person should walk without fear. I give him protection. Abhayam Sarvadatasmai. Allah Ram says, Dadami etad vratam. This is my solemn vow. This is my vrat, that I will give protection to that person. Who has done what? Even once said, my dear Lord, from this day I am yours. Amazing. Amazing. We should never think that Krishna is an incompetent caregiver. We should never think that Krishna is insufficient to give shelter. There's some very strong things that Krishna will say later on, and we'll come to it. Very strong language that Krishna uses. The acharyas give an insight into it. So Krishna continues, if there is some supreme controller, he must depend on the performers engaging in that activity. So in other words, Indra has to give his rain, but he cannot give the rain unless the person does the activity. So if the person does the activity, then Indra is compelled to give the rain. He doesn't require any separate puja, any separate worship. Everyone is forced to experience the consequences of their own previous work. And since Indra cannot change anyone's destiny, why should anybody worship him? He can't change it. If they have this in their impressions, in their samskaras, Indra has to give the necessary result. Even if he doesn't want to, he's compelled. He has no power of refusal. He has no power to veto whatever has to be done. So what is the need of worshipping him? He cannot say no. He cannot change anything. So what is the need of worshipping him? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that the devatas have no function at all, just like the nipples on the neck of a goat. Krishna is speaking very strongly, very strongly. He's inciting Indra. Indra, you are useless. You are useless. Every individual is under the control of his own conditioned nature, and everybody must follow that nature. So, if we are under the control of our own nature, then whether we worship some devata or something, that doesn't change that. Our nature is our nature. It is actually our karma which is based on previous impressions that give result. And therefore, Krishna says, therefore, karma is worshipable. Even the devatas cannot give benefits independently. This is actually said in Bhagavad Gita, Mayeva Vihitan Hitan, that the devatas have to give in accordance with something. They just can't give on their own. And then Krishna says, therefore, one should worship karma or work itself. We should remain in the position that corresponds to our own nature and perform our own duty. That by which we live nicely is our worshipable deity. In other words, Krishna is saying, like this philosophy that we sometimes hear, work is worship. And this philosophy of karma mimamsa, it advocates that we work nicely in this life in order to achieve a better life in the future. But it's interesting that if we work nicely in this life to achieve a better life in the future, that very notion presupposes that there's some entity, there's a soul or entity that is different from the body. So then the question would be, why should the eternal soul worship the interaction of the temporary body with temporary nature? If the soul by its very nature is eternal and has to go on to another body, why should we worship something? So this is just to refute, this is just something speaking, because we don't want to think that Krishna is speaking this here, and this is what Krishna is recommending. This thing that I am going through, Krishna is recommending that. Krishna is saying these things to incite Indra. He wants to provoke a certain reaction from Indra. So he's pushing Indra's buttons. He's not advocating that this is what we should do. Right? So don't think like that. So he continues. If one thing is sustaining our life, why should we take shelter of something else? And this is where Krishna says, this is just like an unfaithful woman consorting with a paramour. Krishna speaks, and Jiva Goswami makes this comment, that Krishna speaks with such audacity because of a transcendental sense of anger that arose in him by seeing his eternal associates worshipping an insignificant devata. So he's speaking very strongly. Just imagine if we take shelter of Krishna, in Krishna's own words here, quote, paraphrasing by Jiva Goswami. And then we think, well, Krishna is not enough. Let me go to this person, do this puja, that other puja. It is almost like a woman who has given up her chastity. These are Krishna's words, not mine. Very, very strong language Krishna is using. That the Brahmanas and the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas, they all perform their respective duties as enshrined in the Shastras. And then Krishna, he continues with this Sankhya, that creation, maintenance, and destruction are all conducted under the modes of material nature. Impelled by passion, the clouds pour their rain everywhere and creatures get their sustenance. What then does the great Indra have to do with any of this? Krishna is anticipating that they may make an objection. That the care of cows requires Indra's assistance. And because they are thinking, they will say, we need rain. And therefore that comes from Indra. Krishna introduces the concept of the atheistic Sankhya philosophy. In a previous verse, Krishna, if you remember, Nanda Maharaj was saying that the agents of Indra are the clouds. And Krishna is saying, no. The clouds, they function under the mode of passion. They function under the mode of passion. That has nothing to do with Indra. So don't worry about that. So between Karma Mimamsa and atheistic Sankhya, Krishna has stopped dead in its tracks the arrangements which were made for Indra Puja, and now he's going to tell them what Krishna recommends. First, he's saying, well, for all these reasons, don't worship Indra. Now he's saying, what should we do? And Krishna says, my dear father, our home is not the cities, towns, or villages. We are forest dwellers. And our lives and our cows are nourished from the forest and the hills. In fact, Govardhan means that which nourishes the cows. Govardhan also means, go also means senses. So Govardhan also means that which nourishes the senses. Govardhan also means that which nourishes the gopas. Govardhan also means that which nourishes the gopis. Govardhan also means that which nourishes the devotees, the Goswamis, those who take shelter of Krishna. So Krishna says we should engage in a sacrifice for the pleasure of the cows, the Brahmanas, and Govardhan Hill. And my dear father, we should do it with the same paraphernalia that we're going to use for Indra's worship. Exactly the same paraphernalia we are going to use for Indra's worship, we should use it for the worship of Govardhan. So this is what Krishna recommends for Govardhan Puja. He says that many varieties of food should be cooked, many varieties of cakes, many varieties of soups, fried items, sweets, all of that should be cooked. Brahmanas should invoke sacred fires and they should be rewarded with cows, various gifts, and also dakshina. On top of that, they should be fed sumptuously. In I'll read one passage by Kavi Karnapur. He says this. Krishna says, send messengers to invite the Brahmanas. Feed them sumptuously until they laugh, and their faces beam with the brilliant garlands of their blissful smiles. At that moment, the Brahmanas will consider that the heavenly storehouses of nectar are totally insignificant. Call the priest to conduct the fire sacrifice and distribute cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Those among you who are simple hearted, so just try to feed the Brahmanas. And then he goes on to describe. So Krishna says you should feed the Brahmanas until they laugh. Anybody who enjoys a good meal and a good mood with good friends and good atmosphere, naturally you smile. The atmosphere is light. It's a very wonderful um, environment to be in, to enjoy a good meal with good friends and a good atmosphere. So Krishna is saying you feed these brahmanas nicely until they laugh. The cows should be fed very sumptuous and nice grass. The people in general should be fed, even the lower class persons like chandalas. Then he says presentations should be made to Govardhan. Presentations like sandalwood paste, flowers, and other respectful offerings. And after everyone has eaten to their full satisfaction, they should dress nicely and they should circumambulate the cows, they should circumambulate the brahmanas, they should circumambulate the sacred fires, and then finally they should circumambulate Govardhan Hill. In other words, they should perform Govardhan Parikrama. This is Krishna's recommendation. Krishna concludes and he says this in a very interesting way. He says, my dear father, this is my idea, and you should do it if it appeals to you. But I can tell you that this idea that I have will be pleasing to the cows, it will be pleasing to the Brahmanas, it will be pleasing to Govardhan Hill. And Krishna pauses. And it will also be pleasing to me. And Krishna rests his case, he rests his argument, and he waits for Nanda Maharaj's response. What does Nanda Maharaj do? He immediately agrees. He says, "My dear Krishna, we will do exactly what you have suggested." And what happened? The Brahmanas began reciting Vedic mantras. If you listen to the um, recording of this by Amala Bhakta, you could hear some Vedic mantras being chanted in the background. One of the mantras being chanted is the Shanti Panchakam. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Sham no Bhavat Aryama Sham no Indro Brihaspatihi Sham no Vishnu Rukramaha, and so on. You could hear that recording in the background in this thing. So then the Brajabasis, they began to worship Govardhan with the same paraphernalia that was arranged for the worship of Indra. They fed the cows very beautiful, nice, succulent grass. And after performing the puja, they put the cows and bulls in front of them and they began to perform Govardhan Parikrama. There's a passage I want to read now from Gopal Champu of Jiva Goswami. Because when they began to uh, something has gone missing from my notes. There's a very beautiful passage in Gopal Champu that describes, because when they were making offerings to Govardhan, a very interesting thing happened. Govardhan himself, Krishna himself, took the form. I don't know why. Just give me 1 second. I think piece of my notes has disappeared for some reason or the other. So I'll read this passage from Gopal Champu of Jiva Goswami. Snigdha Kanta said, after the dark moon celebrated with Deepavali, after the joy of giving gifts on that day, on the first day of the waxing moon, with great faith, taking shelter of Krishna, the supreme shelter, they did as he ordered. In order to carry out this alternative worship, they ornamented the peaks of Govardhan, which increased everyone's joy, with flags and canopies of various colors, and worshipped the hill using the best ingredients, such as padyam and argyam, attractive with fine fragrances and prepared with attention. They made offerings everywhere on Govardhan in the form of hills, with ghee resembling waterfalls and various colored vegetables resembling the Gaurika minerals on the cliffs, with unsurpassable rivers of milk and lakes of yogurt. The various peaks would be later well known by the names of the sweets such as Apupika and Shashkulika offered at that time. The tumult of various types of music at the sacrifice spread to Swarga. The Ashwini Kumaras concluded that this music would be the cause of an earache for Indra. When all the mountains of food were being offered, a huge form of Krishna appeared. And because of people seeing Krishna as small in comparison to this form, the cause of people seeing Krishna as small in comparison to this form was their limited intelligence. Poets describe the huge expanding form joined to the rocky mountain beneath. Is this a gold and black effulgence? Is it a cloud with lightning? Or is it a mountain with shining minerals? Or is it Krishna appearing in an expanded form? This huge form surpasses a mountain of lamp black. Its clothing surpasses an evening cloud. Its ornament surpasses the effulgence of the sun. Its crown is like 1,000 strong branches laden with the best flowers. This lord of the mountain causes astonishment to my eyes. Then the sweet form called Krishna, expert at defeating the cleverness of Brahma, inquired with humility. So this is Krishna speaking to the form that he himself manifested. O Lord, who are you? Rumbling like thunder, to make the clouds wander. With meaning to make clouds stop moving, Govardhan spoke. O members of an unprecedented festival, I am the mountain. Hearing this, the enemy of the demons and friend of Sridham and others spread his arms and stopped the cowherds who were making ever increasing, irrepressible commotion. In a loud voice, he then spoke to all the people. This divine being is worthy of our respect, since it has produced direct faith by accepting to manifest this huge, expanded form out of his eagerness and compassion. In other words, Krishna is saying, all the years you have been performing Indra Puja, did Indra himself ever accept these things? No. But just see, the one time you have performed Govardhan Puja, Govardhan himself has manifested to eat all your offerings. The Devatas see themselves as different from you. I do not see myself as different from you. Now look, I will eat what is given to me in full view. After saying this, Govardhan ate. This is what he was eating. So it means if he was eating this, it means this is what was offered by the Brajabasis on that day. After saying this, Govardhan ate 10 million adakas of cooked rice and vegetable preparations. On each peak, he ate a mouthful. Then, drawing all the water from the lakes, ponds, and rivers, he depleted them all. When he stretched out his hand to take food in front of him, he immediately all the food came to him from all sides, just as sparrows come flying on the sight of grains. Putting the vegetables in the middle, he devoured the piles of rice with his right hand and mocked Indra by wiggling the tip of his index finger, the tip of the index finger of his left hand. With his hands, he quickly. So again, Krishna in the form of Govardhan is provoking Indra even while eating his offerings. With his hands, he quickly consumed large quantities of food. All directions became filled with his hands extending and retrieving. The women of Vraja were able to see this. This was astonishing, among many astonishing things, since no rice at all remained, though it was so abundant that it could not be counted. As Govardhan, the king of mountains, continued to eat, more food was prepared in order to satisfy his appetite. The children expressed fear, the youthful laughed, the elderly were astonished, and the qualified people showed devotion. Govardhan was satisfied with all of them. Govardhan repeatedly gathered water from a great distance, washed his mouth, and spit out that water, creating rain which fell on his back and made grass sprout up. You can imagine that? Govardhan, he's drinking water into his mouth to rinse. He's gargling and he spits the water out. And where that water falls, grass begins to grow. Making piles. After washing his mouth, he took bamboo sticks to clean his teeth. Having shown his form to satisfy living beings, he then withdrew it. Making piles of betel nut, he began chewing with pride. He showed a face as brilliant as the morning sun. When it came time for artik, they became bewildered. How can we perform artik to this huge form? Thinking in this way, their hearts fluttered. Slightly laughing, Krishna arranged another utensil as a lamp, which moved above and below with 1,000 flames. Seeing that the mountain had become conscious and that it desired, searched, and took, the people placed their hands on their heads in astonishment and stood up, giving blessing to all. The benefactor mountain then suddenly disappeared. Offering respects, the people stood for a few moments, motionless, like pictures. When they became fully conscious, Krishna spoke to the people assembled for the festival. See, this mountain has mercifully shown this huge form and eaten all the food. It seems that anyone who disrespects him will be punished. Since he has taken Indra's offering, he must be very powerful. With great faith, they then worship the cows, which possess the highest prema. And Jiva Goswami continues. So, in this way, the first Govardhan Puja was performed. There are other descriptions given that, and this is a very famous description, that when Krishna assumed this form and he ate all the food, and they brought more and he ate all again, he began shouting with a very deep rumble in his voice, Aniyor, Aniyor, give me more, give me more. And they became very, very concerned that they would offend this great person who had appeared in front of them because they had no more, nothing else to give. And so Balaram, he guided them to offer Tulasi. And by the offering of Tulsi, this Giriraj, who was calling for more, became completely satisfied. And thus he gave his blessings to all the Brajabasis. So, as instructed by Krishna, they then began to perform Govardhan Parikrama. And as they were performing Parikrama, they put the cows and the bulls in front, and then everyone else came behind. And there were wagons, and the ladies, interestingly, most of them did not walk. The gopis were being pulled in carriages around the parikrama of Govardhan. And as they were going around Govardhan, they began to sing songs glorifying Krishna. Jiva Goswami, he has given the song that the gopis were singing. And it's a very interesting song. One group of gopis, they say the refrain, Giri Pujayam Vihitam Kena. Who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill? And then the other group of gopis, they give a response. So we'll go through this prayer. They're very beautiful. Like if you listen to it, like even the songs that I don't know if one or two devotees, I think I saw Hari Kirtan and Sachi. They were there for the um they were there for the Damodar Lila. Jiva Goswami also gives a song which Mother Yashoda was singing while she was churning the butter. Gokula Tilakam. That Krishna is the tilak on the ornamented tilak on the head of Gokula. Like that. And she was singing the song. So now the gopis are singing. So one group of gopis sings and calls out, and the other gopis respond. So what are they calling out? Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Arachi Shakara Padmam Abhayam Yena Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Putanikasa Nihita Yena. So what are the gopis saying? Who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill? The one who arranged this worship is the one who freed us from the fear of Indra. Who has arranged this worship of Govardhan Hill? The killer of the demon Putana is the one who has arranged this. Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Trinavartatanu Dalanam Yena Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Yamalarjuna Tarum Udakaliyena. Who has arranged this worship of Govardhan Hill? The one who destroyed the body of the cyclone demon Trinavarta is the one who arranged this. Who has arranged this worship of Govardhan Hill? The one who uprooted the twin Yamal Arjuna trees is the one who arranged this. Giri Pujeham, Giri Pujeyam, Vihitam Kena, Vatsabakasura, Hananam Yena, Giri Pujeyam, Vihitam Kena, Vyomagasura, Maranamyena, who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill, the killer of the calf demon Vatsasura, and the stork demon Bakasura is the one who arranged this. Who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill? The killer of the flying demon Vyomasura and the python demon Agasura is the one who arranged this. Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Kalyadamanam Kalitam Yena Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Karapralambaka Shamanam Yena Giri Pujeyam Vihitam Kena Davayugmam Paripitam yena giripujeyam vihitam kena trashyati kamsha shatatam yena giripujeyam vihitam kena. Who has arranged this worship of Govardhan Hill? The one who subdued the cobra Kalia is the one who arranged this. Who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill, the killer of the donkey demon Dhenukasura and the demon Pralambasura is the one who arranged this. Who has arranged the worship of Govardhan Hill, the one who swallowed two forest fires is the one who arranged this. Who has arranged this worship of Govardhan Hill? The one who Kamsa is always afraid of. He's the one who has arranged this. So, this is the description of the Govardhan Puja as inaugurated by Krishna in Vrindavan. So, with that, I'll stop, and tomorrow we will see what was Indra's response to Krishna's incitement and the Brajabasi's worship according to Krishna's desire. Are there any questions, any comments anybody would like to make? I know I went on for a long period of time unbroken. Nobody had their camera on, so anybody is present. I'm not sure.
I will probably,
Yes, Narayan.
yeah, anyone at this stage they will be speaking about the blue cow.
Pardon?
I said anyone at this stage will be speaking about the blue cow.
I mean the cows in the Govardhan Puja, the blue cows.
Yeah, I just heard a little bit about them. I was wondering if it will be
Okay,
anyone.
so what happens, like the question Narayan is asking about the blue cows, or what is sometimes called Nilgai. Now, what we call the Nilgai today is not actually a cow, it's a species of deer. And it is they live on top of Govardhan Hill and also in the area surrounding Govardhan Hill. You could actually see them like coming down on the Mathura highway, like this highway that sometimes we take from Delhi coming to Vrindavan now, so we don't have to come directly to Chatikara. Um, and it is said when you see those Nilgai while performing Govardhan Parikrama, and it is considered very auspicious. That being said, in Vrindavan, there are different groups of cows that are sometimes arranged by the colors they have, by the tint they have on their body. So there's blue cows, red cows, yellow cows. In, I think in the Krishna Ashtaka, it is described that Krishna, when he stands at Tirkadamba, one of the things he does is he stands at that point, Tirkadamba, to call the different cows back. And he calls the cows that belong in different groups of colors like that. So there's blue cows, what we refer to now as nilgai, which is a variety of a species of deer. And there's cows that have a bluish color in Krishna's time, that different colors, blue, yellow, and others. Is that all right, Narayan?
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay. Anything else? Any contribution anybody would like to make also? That's fine. All right. If not, we'll
Hare Krishna,
yes,
thanks
Raj.
so much. I I think that it's nice that you have done all the hard work and the research to give us, so much perspectives, and all of that helps, to illuminate and to increase our faith because, sometimes if people don't really properly hear Govardhan Lila, then, sometimes more doubts could come up, because, you're hearing all these arguments Krishna is, bringing up, karma mimamsa, some strange practices, worshipping cows and, hill. And so, if, proper explanation is not given and so on. Sometimes the whole thing could remain a sort of, you know, bewildering thing. So nice to have, some, better, more illuminating perspectives on different things. Thanks so much for that, Hare Krishna.
And one of the things that especially in Vrindavan, everything revolves around the exchange of love. And oftentimes in a relationship of love, there are some things that you can't really reason. And any of us who have individual relationships, like whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, parent and child, husband and wife, whatever the case may be. In each of those relationships, there's some things that one party or the other would like that, and the other partner just provides that just because they like it. There's no reason, there's no like explanation for it, and they would just, and other people who look at that, they would say, but that's quite strange. Why do you do that? "Well, they like it. What's the big deal? I like them happy. So I do it." And so in this Govardhan Lila, even though, quite honestly, there's arrangements or prescriptions given for the worship of the Devatas within Shastra, but when we come to understanding the interaction of the residents of Vrindavan at Krishna, their whole business is I'll do what Krishna likes. Actually, Rupa Goswami, when he defines what devotional service is, the first Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karmadya navritam anukulyena. Anukul, I will do that which is pleasing to Krishna. Anukul. Srila Prabhupada, he gives a, I will do it for Krishna, as Krishna likes. So when the residents of Vrindavan, they hear what Krishna wants, then it was not hard for them to say, well, we'll do what you want because you like it. Because you like this to be done, then we'll do it. And it's quite interesting as we'll see what happens in tomorrow's class. Sometimes there may be consequences for that, or perceived consequences. Those consequences may come in the form of others telling us that you're supposed to also do this, you're supposed to also do that. But do we have to? Like that. So the root of Krishna bhakti is acting as Krishna likes, acting for the pleasure of the beloved, of the object of love. So that's an important point that Rajarshi was making. And when we see things from the position of love, then it doesn't seem so strange. We look at the how the Brajabasis were, everybody was happy. When you go to any festival at the temple, and people just put aside their differences and act for the pleasure of Krishna, that's a certain atmosphere is generated by that. When persons put aside what I want I need this in order for me to feel happy in this festival. But if that same attitude is transformed into what would Krishna like, and if that attitude moves from the individual to the collective, that generates a sort of energy that has the potency to enter within the heart and create a deep, deep impression in the consciousness. When collectively we act as Krishna would like us to act, in such a way, what does Krishna want? So it's a very good reminder that Rajarshi Prabhu gave. Anything else? Anyone?
Uh, apart from the twin pandits who often come to the temple, uh, a pandit from the Lange Park area was there. We know each other over the years and so on, but I don't
Is our
really
same
see him at
mutual
the
friend?
temple. Uh,
Is our same mutual friend?
yeah,
Yeah.
so you know, he was there also, which is quite unusual. I've seen him long ago around, but yeah, he was there for Govardhan Puja yesterday, so I thought that was interesting.
Nice. Yeah, Govardhan Puja is a festival for everybody. Like hardly you'll find anybody who comes to Govardhan Puja and is disappointed. Giraj has that potency to make people smile when they see him. All right. So tomorrow we'll continue at 7. Everybody was happy at Govardhan Puja except one person, and that was Indra. So we'll find out what was Indra's reaction tomorrow and what we can learn from that. And feel free to share the link with others. This seminar um, is open to anybody. The reason why we ask people to register is just so we could get people information, so we could generate a mailing list and reach out to people when we are doing more programs like this, which we hope to do several times throughout the year. Some of them would be like a small donation required. Most of them would be free. Um, so like that. So feel free to share the link and invite other people to the program tomorrow. Um, Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Giraj Maharaj ki jai.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.